We've discussed Tyler Perry's 2013 film Temptation, Confessions of a Marriage Counselor already.
But the one thing we haven't talked about is The Marriage Counselor, the play, that ran for years before being released as a film.
And y'all been asking for it.
So join us for a full breakdown of The Marriage Counselor, the play from 2009, as we find out how Judith is gonna ruin her marriage this time.
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation of $5 or more via our website at axiom.app, Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber.
There will be spoilers, but I don't know if people are going back to watch the plays.
I think people are. Somebody in the comments from the previous one that we had covered said that they are watching the plays. But, if you haven't seen the plays, or the other thing is, as one of the viewers pointed out, and we appreciate it, the plays are not necessarily the same. The ones on the DVDs that we're showing you are not necessarily the same as the ones that are streaming. So, you got different plays that have been recorded, different versions of the play, and they may be running at different times. So this may give you an opportunity to see a version you haven't seen. But this is the one that is from 2008 or 2009, because there's some conflicting information. The box actually has one date, I think 2008. And then the online IMDb stuff says 2009. Right. So
I think he wrote it, right? And they started basically performing it in 2008. And then this recording was 2009. And we know how that changed. They changed actors and all these different things. So the version that we have, I believe, is 2009.
But on the box it says 2008, so it's weird. So anyway, that's for the people, those of you who like precision and who are eager to correct us in the comments for the dates that we put out here. The bottom line is this play ran before and after it was actually recorded, and so this original music, just so you guys know, is by Tyler Perry and Elvin Ross. So again, just like his previous plays, he's writing the music there, which I think is it's amazing that you can write the play, perform in the plays. I don't know if he's in this one, but perform in them. And, and you're writing music, which is a very, I think, different thing. But maybe he does the lyrics and somebody else is doing the actual music. I don't know. But either way, I think it's to his credit to really show the talent that he was showcasing to make it, because I think it's easy to look at where he is now as this huge, billionaire mogul who has his own studios and all that, and just think that, oh, well, he really had much talent and look at what he's doing. But when you look at what he was doing back then and for then, that's, an important thing. So this particular one that we're viewing was recorded in Cleveland. And so Tyler Perry said that he had found a new cast of people to give opportunities to. So also we see him trying to give opportunities to unknown actors. And, of course, there's probably a little bit of benefit to that, which is that it's cheaper. But, I think that's good too. You're showing people who haven't been shown. Now, this is important, I think, because he also talks about that the box office doesn't know how to count his predicted box office numbers for his movies. And he's like, they're always like, oh, we predict this amount. And he always would far, exceed how much that they expected him to bring in.
I don't think they're really accurately trying to predict it, right? What they're doing is trying to blackball black filmmakers like they always done. Oh, it's not gonna do this and whatever, and then so we can only give you this much money.
Yeah, that's another thing. So either way, the black audience, Tyler Perry was keen on the black audience and understood that there obviously was money to be made in capitalism, right? But also that, we had unmet needs in terms of our entertainment that nobody was addressing, and that people would come out and they would pay to see these live performances. The other thing is that he talks about being criticized for, your plays are on the Chitlin circuit. And, we all know that the Chitlin circuit is basically like where smaller performers, many times from the historically where, black performers who were not allowed to come into larger venues to perform, except except the very most, the top tier ones, right? other than that, you were on the Chitlin circuit. And he was saying, like, we need to have some respect for the Chitlin circuit. Be proud, because this is Black people becoming famous amongst their own. And that
and it's
is
our
important.
venues and stuff. That's
Exactly.
the thing. It's like, oh, you only go to Black venues, so I'm only respectable if I go perform for white people.
You know, so that's a whole commentary in and of itself. And the other interesting thing about this particular cast is that there is a white cast member, and because there's a white character in the play, and he says about her, you know, once in a while you find a white girl that can sing like, and then he just kind of lets it trail off. And, you know, I think he was saying, you know, sing like she's Black is what he implies.
Well, we'll see.
So we gonna see.
What I do know from kind of skimming the DVD is that it's too much singing.
You always say that.
Plus, like, if you know how you just scrub through, and every time I click somewhere, then it's a song.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know. We're gonna see.
Well, it's got to feel a little bit like church too, right? And there's a lot of singing in most churches.
Want us to cover your favorite movie ASAP? A one-time contribution of just $50 or more to Axiom Amnesia gets you a deep dive on demand, a 30-minute discussion on any film you choose.
It's easy. Step 1, send $50 via our website, axiom.app, where you can pay via card, Apple Pay, or you can pay directly via Cash App at $Axiom Amnesia. See the links below. Step 2, tell us your movie, email, the name you want to appear on screen, and what kind of deep dive you want. General, a specific character, a particular aspect of the film, etc. Step 3, watch your deep dive on demand with your name listed as executive producer.
Lock in your deep dive on demand today and hurry. Spots are limited.
This offer is not valid for filmmakers or distributors. Subject to availability and terms apply. So the cast. All right. And I'm just going to run through this because you probably don't know most of their names, but I think it's important to point out who's in here. So we have Tamar Davis as Judith, the main character, Dr. Judith Jackson. We have Tony Grant as Roger Jackson, her husband. Palmer Williams Jr. as Floyd. Altrina Grayson as TT. Stephanie Ferret as Becky. Brandy Milton, Myra Beasley, Nicole Jackson. Tim and Kyle Durrett, and Johnny Gilmore as Reverend Tank Washington. So that's who we have.
Becky. Okay, bro.
I know he actually names the white character Becky. All right, well, let us get into it. But first, if you're watching this, chances are Tyler Perry has you hooked, whether you love his films, love to hate them, or you just can't resist them as a guilty pleasure. But here's what you might not know. We've already gone deep into Tyler Perry land, and we've got entire playlists breaking down his stories, his characters, and all the drama that you can't stop talking about. So don't miss out. Hit the description for links to our playlist, the Ultimate Why Did I Get Married playlist, and the Ultimate Tyler Perry playlist. Trust me, you'll want to binge these and share them with your friends.
It opened up with a song. So we had the mama Titi, and she was praying for her son-in-law.
Can you please help my son-in-law pay all these bills? He's trying, Lord.
So the mama was praying for her son-in-law, and then everybody just started singing together. So it's already a song.
Down by the riverside, Lord, down by the riverside.
Yeah, I mean, it just basically opens with that. But before this, we do get kind of like a little bit of a montage, and it sort of gives you a feel of like Waiting to Exhale or something like that, how they do at the beginning, where you're introduced to characters by
11 characters.
Yes, by them explaining, their primary issue, right? You know how in Waiting to Exhale, Robin, you hear their inner monologue and whatever.
And I'm not a stripper. I'm an exotic dancer, boo. And we'll see if our marriage can be saved.
So there's like a little part at the very beginning where you get the inner monologue, and then we see this singing. And this is how we're introduced to like the first 4 characters, right? And so we have TT, who is Judith's mother.
Thank you, sweetie. And you're looking beautiful this morning.
We're introduced to Judith. Judith is the main character.
That is right, Mama.
She's the one who is the marriage counselor. And then Judith's husband, Roger.
I noticed you look beautiful in what looks like another new outfit.
And by the way, in the film, her husband's name was Bryce, but this is Roger. So I don't know how different Bryce and Roger are, but, the husband had a name change before the movie came out. And so then we also have Floyd, who is Roger's father.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is take an R&B song, put Jesus in it, and it's a gospel song.
So they basically are living with they're, you know, one each of one of their parents, his father and her mother. And so we'll just kind of, you know, call them kind of mama, daddy. TT and Floyd are their actual character names. And so the other thing is they did do a little dig at Kirk Franklin. And they were talking about all you got to do to make a gospel song is take an R&B song and then add Jesus to it. You know,
but wasn't your girl doing that though before Kirk Franklin?
Who?
The one from the 80s.
You mean the Clark sisters?
Yeah, Clark sisters.
Yeah. The Clark sisters did that too. But, you know, Kirk Franklin, they never got as big as Kirk Franklin. Like Kirk Franklin just, you know, was really big. And if you think about what was happening in the Christian church, the Black Christian church at that point, is a lot of people didn't like Kirk Franklin's, I guess you could call it marriage of like secular music with the gospel.
He was taking rap music and everything and doing it to rap songs.
When I tell y'all, if you were too young to know and remember when the song Stomp came out, like, and Salt from Salt and Pepper, the female rap duo, was on that song. Listen, that song you could not get away from. It was played nonstop. It was a jam at the time. I remember it, and it was being played, you know, on the regular R&B urban stations.
Yeah, but
in the regular rotation.
Yeah, but he took Tupac and Scarface and and you know, interpolated that.
You know, but what he did, what happened was he figured out how to reach a new generation, a younger generation of people with the music. And I think that is what's failed now, right? Is that we don't have the younger people coming into the church, which is why, you know, well, one of the reasons why I think church attendance is down, because the church got old and it never got young again. You know, like you got to figure out a way to, you know, reach a new generation every time there's a new generation. And if you don't, then you're going to have church attendance and that, you know, falling off.
Before you were just kind of forced, right? Because it was still old back in like the 80s and 90s too, you know, but I guess it's kind of the more contemporary type of gospel folks, right? The more closer to CCM type of thing. So you kind of got like bands and just a whole different sort of a church that's just like, we're not like stuffy churches, you know what I mean?
Right. Now, another thing that was brought up in early on is it seems like they wound up all living together, perhaps because of Hurricane Katrina. And so this is mentioned. Now, remember, this play that we're watching came out in 2008, 2009 timeframe. And so this is a few years after Katrina because it made landfall, you know.
2005.
In 2005, in August of 2005.
But I wonder why he never really had it in any movie. Like, when you think about it, and then how many actual movies, I seen one about the high school basketball team or whatever, that kind of is about that. You know what I'm saying? Or put it as a backdrop, or you know what I'm saying? Just have it part of the setting.
Yeah.
Or part of the plot. It's weird, and especially being from there.
Yeah, he's from New Orleans, yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler Perry is. So the other thing, so then when we get into the actual plot and the storyline or whatever, Roger has forgotten their anniversary.
Roger, you forgot our anniversary, didn't you?
So that's kind of the same as what happened in the movie, except it's instead of it being her birthday, it's their anniversary, which I don't know, in a way is kind of like worse in a sense, because it is like you are forgetting the thing that solidified, I guess, you know, in the minds of a lot of people, solidify your relationship. This is a huge day for you all together, and he has forgotten it, right? And so the mother is making comments, and she's like, well, a man with a child don't forget his anniversary, right?
A man who has kids remembers his anniversary.
So you have her mother pressuring her to have a child. Judith is like, no, we're not ready for that yet.
Mama, I told you we are not ready for that yet.
Like that. And then we get TT and Floyd being at odds with each other.
His soldiers don't march. He must be like his daddy.
Heifer, you don't know my soldiers?
So her mother, his father, becoming the comic relief, much of the way a Medea would, right? It's always these older characters who are the comic relief, and they're fighting each other, insulting each other, and talking about each other or whatever.
Yeah.
But then we also find out that the mama is drinking
on her way back from the liquor store.
Mama!
And the daddy is growing weed in the backyard.
Floyd got a bunch of weed growing in the backyard, and he ain't supposed to.
And while on the surface it's kind of made a joke, you know, you think about, all right, if this is in the aftermath of Katrina and the trauma that, you know, happened for people, then you find folks attempting, you know, even church folks, right, attempting to escape. And so you have a mother who's drinking, and I think each of them have lost their spouses, right? So they're also dealing with grief as well. And so I do think it speaks to, you know, the conditions of these people. And what's interesting is this lady is like she's a marriage counselor, but still she's a therapist of sorts. And not of sorts, she is a therapist. And you got, you know, your mama and his daddy right there in the house with you drinking and showing signs of, you know, coping or attempting to cope and escape. And, you know.
Yes, but where's her money going?
I don't know, because Roger is complaining about how much money she's spending on her outfit, on things. And Roger is stressed out because, you know, he's trying to take care of this whole family.
Yeah, but he says he's going to need help with the bills this month.
I need a little help with the bills this month.
Baby, stop talking about the bills.
Like, what? I guess just because she's not, she isn't contributing, but she's buying new outfits and whatever else and think that she's spending in excess, right?
Okay, so maybe in situations like in certain marriages, I mean, some people view it as the woman's money is her own and she doesn't put that into the family pot because the husband is the provider. Now,
clearly.
I think honestly, in most situations, especially with the economy now, most people ain't seen that type of setup in decades and maybe never, right? But you know, the idea is that whatever the woman does is just for her, and the responsibility of provision is on the husband, and you know, so. But I just think it's crazy that you would be buying new outfits, but he's over here struggling and stressed out, and she's like, "Don't worry, don't worry." But my thing is like, okay, let's come together and help resolve. So I already see problems with both of these characters from the beginning. He's forgetting the anniversary, and she's over here, you know, burying her head in the sand when he's trying to give her red flags that they're financially in trouble.
Together as a family and try to figure out how we're going to get ourselves out of this little financial bind that we're in.
Yeah, so you probably would call her Miss Woody. CROOKLYN?
Oh, okay. Yes. Uh-huh. Miss Woody, yeah, because we talked about that. By the way, we did a whole series of videos on CROOKLYN. I'll link that in the description too, so you guys can watch. But the one of the main points about all of these videos we've done, a lot of people do not go to the channels and go and click the video tab because we have so many videos. And if you're just waiting for YouTube to feed you the video, you probably ain't gonna see all the stuff that you could be binging.
But you can go to axiom.app and then there's a search at the top, so you could just search for the movie and then it'll come up all the videos we have on that movie.
Right, across all of our channels, because, you know, if you're only searching the one channel, you might only get those videos. So that's where we are. This has been the stage that is set for what's going to happen in this play. And so the next scene, we see Judith at work, and then Becky comes in.
Now, I mixed Hennessy with Hypnotic last night. I was toe up.
And she has Becky who works for her, and, you know, she comes out with a black scent. But she talks about, you know, that she has some Incredible Hulk, which we used to drink 25 years ago.
What the heck? I don't even know what that was.
Hennessy and Hypnotic.
Oh, okay.
And when you mix it together, because Hypnotic is blue, it turns green.
Oh,
so they called it Incredible Hulk. Yeah.
Well, inform me of that.
Yeah, so basically she has a bunch of clients lined up, and Becky isn't that great of a worker.
Becky was like so inappropriate. You know, she's been reading the cases of the people. Like, she's all in their files.
I mean, you do know he's a pastor and she's a stripper.
Becky, just send them in, okay?
We are introduced to the couples. And then after being introduced to the couples, I'm just thinking, this is why did I get married?
Yeah,
after the movie, like you took the movie and kind of turned it into a play.
Yes.
Because we're introduced to a pastor and a stripper, right? Tank and Patrice.
Okay, please have a seat.
No, sit down, woman. You sit down. Sit down.
And Patrice seemed like Angela.
Washington, you go first.
Good.
Well, why he gotta go first? Because I got something I want to say.
Back to Becky. She's sitting in for part of their, part of their session, which is inappropriate. That's a pastor who's married to a stripper. And so Patrice was the one that you're saying reminds you a bit of Angela, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, he is what I would call a typical old school kind of preacher who's going to be kind of sexist. You know, he wanted a male counselor. But he wanted a Christian counselor, and he was asking her if she was Christian. And of course, Judith is him and hawing because Judith is not Christian, but she's like, I was raised in the church, you know, but she's not actively participating in in as a Christian, right? She's not practicing. And so they argue, but their problem is that Patrice doesn't want to join the church, and Tank wants her to get saved.
But he just joined 3 years ago, right? So it's kind of like, you know, you just got into something. Somehow you're a pastor, and now
I don't know how that happens, but
then
okay.
It's like you get these ideas of what you think this is, right? What you think Christianity or whatever is, and then that's how you adopt those, I guess, sort of purist ideology into thing, right? Oh, a woman should do this. A man's role is this and that. And you're not really that seasoned in this thing that you're practicing, right? To get all the nuances. Because, you know, like the theologians and stuff, they just going to go all the way in with the nuances of all of these different religions.
So the you know, and so they touch on kind of a lot of stereotypes, right, of the black church, you know, that the church people are all, you know, basically funky acting, and she doesn't want to be she doesn't want to get saved. She doesn't want to go to the church. She's saying the church folks are too holy, while sometimes she still goes back to the strip club and dances, and, you know, still is in
Ain't no
the
problems
life
in there, huh?
Yeah, that was in the life. So you know, but again, it reminds me of Why Did I Get Married also, because Judith is like Patricia, because there's one point where she's explaining where the people are explaining their problems. She's like, oh, this is fascinating.
Wow! This is interesting.
And then I immediately thought of Patricia from Why Did I Get Married? Because there's this element of where, you know, people's problems seem fascinating to you. And are you really solving them, or are you kind of getting off on your kink? You're helping them to solve it, or is it just your kink that you like hearing about all this stuff and how people work, and, you know, and I mean, Patricia did a whole experiment on her friends.
So y'all know I'm on Blue Sky, right? Somebody posted, by the way, my cousin's Fatal Attractions episode is airing tonight or something, right?
Shut up.
And then somebody commented and they was like, oh, I'm going to watch. I love that show. And I'm like, wait, that's very weird that would even be the response. You're fascinated, because you know how I feel about, you know, watching those shows and what those shows are about. You know, we're just getting off on actual true stories of people being murdered. Mm-hmm. That's very weird to respond to somebody. But I was thinking, which is your cousin an actress? You know what I'm saying? Is your cousin a victim? Is your cousin
but you don't
a perpetrator?
Yeah,
I'm not even touching that at all.
Yeah, that's wild. But yeah, but let me just say this. I do find human behavior fascinating, right? Why people do things, I'm always interested in that. But if you're the counselor, then you have positioned yourself as if you are helping, right? So I don't know. I guess your motivations might play into it, but you know, that really reminded me of Patricia, because when we think of Patricia, we all kind of agreed, at least many of you in the comments, that she went too far. Like, you literally, you know, ran this study on your friend.
Yeah, but like other people in different disciplines and even other doctors, it's like, ooh, this is challenging. I want to try this, right?
Right.
I want to try this case that nobody else was able to solve or won't handle. And the person might die, but, you know, if I get to be involved in it and get to possibly be the one, you know, I don't know.
So Patrice, because even the names are similar, right? Patrice, who is the one that is the ex-exotic dancer, the ex-stripper, she says, excuse you at one point, right, to Becky.
But I need you to tell me what seems to be the problem.
Excuse you.
Becky.
And I just want to stop and pay homage to the term excuse you in Black culture. It's one of the things where clearly it's a very rude thing to say to somebody, and you're intending to be rude when you say it. But I just love the fact that a phrase, excuse me, which is intended to be polite, has been turned on its ear and is intended to point out that somebody has overstepped the bounds, you know?
Yeah.
And by saying, excuse you, you know, I really love that. I love that about Black English. I love that. But yeah, excuse you. And the last time I really heard a good excuse you was in Chicago when we were at Harold's Chicken and we had walked in. You remember that?
That is not a good excuse you.
It was not for a good reason, because it was a crazy reason. But the way she said it was on point. So y'all, we were at Harold's Chicken in Chicago. And, you know, it's always, and when it's crowded in there were a lot of people, And,
It was cold up in there too.
Yes. And Heit is, obviously not from Chicago. So we walked in and we're there. And then a woman is coming in, and I guess she was trying to get in line to place her order or whatever. And she actually bumped into Heit and brushes past him, and then has the nerve to say, "Excuse you." So it was inappropriate, but the way she said it, she was like, "Excuse you," and I was just like, oh my gosh. And then I started to think, is this merely regional? Did people used to, because that was very common in Chicago when I was growing up, if somebody had a problem. I don't know. What did they always say, "Excuse you"? Is that something that was common where you grew up in Louisiana?
Yeah, people said.
Yeah. So I just think this is just, but I love the "excuse you" thing, even though that was just ridiculous. And I was just saying to myself, okay, just don't say anything. Because, Heit got to learn the ropes about being in Chicago. You don't be speaking to people saying, "Hey, what's up?" That is like the weirdest thing to me about being in the South, even still, is that every time Heit would wave or nod at somebody, I'm like, "Oh, you know them?" And then he was like, "Nah, they just, and you were going down the street. I remember we were in Heit's hometown, and I was taking a walk a block or so away from, the house. And a man is driving down the street in a pickup, and he goes real slow, and he looks, and then he waves and is like, "Hello," or whatever. And then I'm just like, "Hi." And I felt like, wait, what's going on here? Are you slowing? Am I about to get abducted? What's happening? Because if you're not used to that people actually speak and interact with each other, in Chicago, man, and you start talking and looking at people that you don't know, they're going to wonder what's going on with you. That's on the verge of a threat, sadly, but it's just how the culture is. So anyway, that is the story of "Excuse You." So Patricia, why do I keep saying Patricia? Because
one of them
why
is
did I get
Patrice,
married?
right?
Patrice, yes. So Patrice and her husband, they kind of trying to duke it out or whatever, but they eventually just wind up leaving. So clearly, though, Becky is the comic relief in the office settings, right, for this play. But then when they leave, then we get a man, Ronald Henry, who comes in, and he's just smooth talking and smooth walking and whatever.
Hey!
Hey,
Ronald!
Hey, baby girl, hey.
Wow.
And he's somebody that Judith knows from college, and she actually used to date him in college. He comes in like Samuel from Soul Food. If you know, you know.
Oh, well, it's no surprise to me that you still look as good as you do, baby. Look at you.
And
yeah,
so,
but I think I Love My Wife, 2007, Chris Rock. And Washington, what's her name?
Kerry Washington?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Oh, okay. Well, I was thinking you were going to say why.
Because the kind of situation is that he's a successful, I guess he's this guy, he works at an office, he runs into somebody he knew from his past. You know what I'm saying? And then there's this temptation.
And so he starts talking about, him and his wife need counseling and da-da-da-da-da. But like I said, it comes out that she used to date him in college. And I'm like, okay, this is so inappropriate. She knows it's inappropriate, but somehow she still yet agrees to be their counselor, which I think is just crazy.
Yeah, very crazy. That's Patricia, right?
Mm-hmm.
From Why Did I Get Married?
And how is your little husband? He says he's an accountant, and you always like these boring guys. So Ronald is going on, and we find out that he was this basketball star, and then he went to play pro after that. And he's like, you just realized you missed out on all this. You could have been rich too,
And you could have been rich.
And she says money ain't everything.
Money ain't everything.
Oh, girl, please.
And he makes the statement that that's what people who ain't got no money say.
Money ain't everything. You know what, Jay? That's what everybody says who ain't got money.
And I thought about this, and I was like, yeah, maybe. But it's also a statement that people make when they have money.
Exactly.
And they realize that it's not everything.
I don't think when they realize, when they try to manipulate people who don't have money too, right? You don't want this. You know what I'm saying? You got it good. You know how people just...
Well, those people, but...
Yeah, fake flexing.
But there are people who I think
do
do come to understand that, who didn't have money, did everything to get it, got it, and still weren't happy, and realized that it gave you comfort, but it didn't fill you up the way you thought that it would. So Becky comes in and she interrupts because she realizes that, Ronald is just being, too hot to handle, too cold to hold. And so she interrupts or whatever. She gives this note to Ronald, and then she still continues to give her comic relief.
Whip your fine self, Becky.
Ooh, I almost fell.
Becky,
You saved me.
So then the next couple comes in because he leaves. So she's going to be seeing Ronald and his wife later, but he leaves. So then this man basically comes in who is just like Mike and Sheila.
Anything that got to do with exercising, she ain't trying to do.
He's coming in complaining about his wife's weight, saying she's trying to have sex with me and da-da-da-da-da.
She's always trying to have sex with me.
That's because you haven't touched me in over a year.
For those of you who don't know, you should visit axiom.app and you'll be able to look at all of the recent videos across all of our channels. And I'm putting that on the screen right now just so y'all can see it and see what it looks like. Because there are a ton of videos that are over there. And also, I think that there are at least about 100 exclusive videos that are available for our Patreon members and our YouTube members. So, if you're interested in more of our content, as I've seen many of you binge watching, be sure to check those things out. It just dawns on me, like what you said. Tyler Perry took certain archetypes and then he just made these archetypes pop up in these different plays.
Yeah, but the thing is that Why Did I Get Married? The film came out in 2007, and if this is created in 2008-ish, right, or maybe even around the same time, it's called The Marriage Counselor, which is basically the role of, Janet Jackson character, Patricia, in that film. It's like you took that and just like, let me just do a play out of this, even though you already had the Why Did I Get Married plays.
Mm-hmm.
So then that turned into this, and then this turned into that movie that we already talked about on this channel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But, but I'm like, okay, but then you already had the Why Did I Get Married play too,
Yeah, so, but it's different. It's not, he probably was like, oh, the movie with the different characters was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
The different couples. Now,
we should
let me
explore that more. Yeah.
But he's always remixing all this stuff. And we don't know if this came first and he turned into the Why Did I Get Married movie and then done this. But then you just basically play off the name and the so-called adaptation so that you could promote the movie Temptation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he could probably more clearly explain it if somebody really asked.
Look, if she was a size 4, maybe we could talk about something.
So then the cleaning lady, Lisa, comes in.
Dr. Jackson, excuse me, I didn't know anybody was still working.
And it's late, and, she tells the story of having been in the hospital last week and whatever. And then she tells Judith, hey, I appreciate the opportunity to work here and clean up, but I'm going to have to quit because I have HIV.
I have HIV.
What?
And I've had it for a long time, she says. And then Judith is like, but you don't look sick, Lisa.
Lisa, but you don't look sick.
I know. Most people with my condition don't.
And, I thought about this because I was like, okay. She's a counselor, but I would also think that that she should understand by this point, by she, I mean Judith, that like everybody who had HIV at that point, like, you don't necessarily have to look sick because that was the part of the awareness campaigns that were happening in the 80s and in the 90s and even into the 2000s that you can't tell if somebody is HIV positive just by looking at them. So, but I guess it was brought up to reinforce something because somebody said something about that in the video that we did on Temptation, the movie, which is, the same as this play. And they were like, well, this was a cautionary tale and everything. And it was because of that it was to raise awareness, basically. The reason that she had to, that Judith had to wind up with HIV at the end of the movie. And I was just like, but, it was positioned like this was her punishment for stepping out on her husband versus a consequence. And, I feel like I should mention this more and explain it further. A consequence is something that is not a value judgment. It just is a possibility as a result of your action versus a punishment being something that is what you deserve according to whatever the rule books are, right? What you deserve because of what you did. So it's saying you were wrong and this is the punishment. And that is the problem that I had with the ending of the film.
But I don't think it shows that either still. I just think that it is our own perceptions of how we take it, whether it's a consequence or a punishment. I don't think the film says it's a punishment on its own.
We argued this out
Yeah.
in our breakdown of the Temptation video on the movie. So y'all should go watch that if you haven't already seen it, but we'll link it in the description.
Yeah, but that's why there are people on both sides like that so much. Yeah.
But Judith does ask, how did you get it? And then we get Lisa telling her, hey, my husband, he was out in them streets, basically.
Yeah.
My husband was the kind of man who did anything and any woman he thought he was big and bad enough to do.
And he was a drug addict. And, you know, he was beating her. And so she left him.
And I left him and his bad drug habit quick, fast, and in a hurry.
And then it gets interrupted. Judith, Judith gets a call.
He did what?
And, you know, is upset because her husband has canceled their vacation.
About work.
Your husband is working. He got a job and you upset.
So Roger is like, look, we ain't spending this money on his vacation. And Lisa's response is like, your husband is working. He got a job.
You got a good man and you need to hold on to him. You hear me?
Girl, Savannah, you got yourself a good man. If you know, that reference is from Waiting to Exhale, right? So again, you got a good man. Try to keep your good man. And then Judith is like, you know, you really helping me put things into perspective because I'm over here talking about him not spending money on our vacation and you fighting for your life. And
here it is, I'm tripping about my marriage and you're sick.
So then we get a song. And let me just say, this song, the voice, the actress's voice is amazing to me. And her voice is so clear and beautiful and she sings well. And the song is basically about how God is still good no matter what you're going through. And all you need to know is that he cares, basically, is the theme of that song.
God, I've had some dark days.
Her voice is good. I mean, in the previous two plays that I've watched, the voices have been of course, Tamala Mann and Cheryl Pepsi Riley, amazing voices and stuff like that. But some of the voices, other people's singing voices were just, you know, they were all right. They got the job done, but I was less impressed. And so I really liked her voice here. What do you think of that in the song?
Yeah, well, that's I didn't really like the song. I don't want to hear the song.
Okay. But her voice to me was great.
Her speaking voice was like J Hud.
I
know that, but
that Chicago accent.
I didn't want to hear the song. And we still have more to come.
Are you all right? Mama, I am trying to be patient about this, but no, I'm not all right.
So Judith gets home and she's mad because Roger has canceled this vacation. Roger canceled the vacation because of money. And so we see them begin to argue and flesh out what's going on. Roger is like, but I don't understand why Roger didn't just say, hey, look, I don't think we should go and then we should cancel. I'm going to cancel. Okay. Like communication they could have duked it out beforehand. But I think that when you do a thing and then the person just finds out because you canceled it and you didn't talk about it. But one could argue that he tried.
Yeah,
he
but
tried to
either
talk
way,
about it and
why would the travel agent call her? Because the travel agent is trying to keep the business, right? The travel agent is a little shady, right? You know, your husband called and he canceled the thing. I don't know how.
Your husband didn't make that.
I don't know the business
payment.
of travel agents, but I'm guessing that she loses something.
Well, yeah, you don't get the sale, right?
Yeah, but yeah, you probably get a little something, maybe. I don't know if it's only on whatever was paid, but I don't know.
So then we see Judith start to say, hey, but you know, what are you talking about? And he's like, we got bills, the mortgage on your office, all of this stuff. She's like, but I make good money. So
I make decent money.
So I guess her money is contributing to it too, but she just spends how she
I don't
wants
understand.
to spend.
Like this, like the money is together, but then it's not together. He's paying for the lease and she's whatever. I'm going to need you to help me pay for the thing. Is it that
she got student loan debt?
He paid for the lease, the student loans and all that, and she just takes the revenue
or
from
she just
the business.
spends what she's gonna spend without looking at what bills have to go out before spending, right? Because
so when he says I need help with the bills this month, he's saying don't spend. I'm thinking he's saying he's communicating that he needs her to give her money.
Yeah.
Give him money.
But if she was already giving money, I don't know. So y'all go to the comments, explain what this setup actually is, because it is a little bit confusing.
Because what he kept saying was, I'm paying, right? Not we or us, right? Because if it was together, then it would be like, we're paying this?
Well, so maybe it feels like I'm paying. If we both, let's just say we both make $1,000, you know, like to make it simple, let's just say we each have $1,000 that we put into the pot for this set of bills, right? And so now that's $2,000. But if I go out and then, you know, I spend money just for my personal expenditures, and then most of you don't get your, you know, discretionary spending because I've overspent, right? In a fair world, we would each have discretionary money. So let's just say if our bills added up to $1,000, then we each are putting in 500, right?
You know, and then we still that we are paying when the money comes out. We paid for the bag. We paid for the clothes. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that I feel like that's maybe what he's saying. Bottom line is no matter. Well, because I am paying because I've sacrificed. So in the scenario I gave, so if the bills are $500 or add up to, you know, 1,000, that means 500 from each person, which should leave 500 for each person. But if every month you spend 1,000, you spend 1,000 on your personal that you put in, then I'm paying for everything is really kind of like what he's saying. So that's, you know, so in theory, hey, both of our checks go into the account. But if I overspend, then
we overspent. Well,
I mean, you know, I agree with the idea of but it's inconsiderate of the person if that person is overspending, and maybe that's what he's trying to curb happening. And he's like, hey, don't be spending all the money because I need to do it. But the funny thing happens when they're having their argument, and I really thought this was clever and I liked it, where the mama and the daddy are sitting on the couch while they're having this argument, and they each become the amen corner for their child. So when Judith is like, I make good money, the mama is like, my daughter makes good money.
My daughter makes decent money.
And, you know, praise the Lord or something like that she says. And I thought that was funny.
Thank you, Jesus.
When Roger comes with his rebuttal.
Honey, did you forget I paid your way through school?
His father is like, saying like, hey, my son, you know.
Yeah. My son paid your daughter's way through school.
And then, you know, we see him and they sing their parts, right?
Hallelujah.
Which I thought was good because it's like the amen corner at the church. And I thought that was kind of funny. There is another reference because we always have to look for the Color Purple reference in these Tyler Perry plays, because he said there will always be something from the Color Purple. Indeed, there was, where once everybody leaves and Roger is talking to his daddy, he's like, oh, you know, what should I do? And the daddy is like, oh, no, it wasn't once everybody leaves because the mother was still there. But the daddy is like, beat her.
What am I going to do about her?
Beat her, Harpo.
Line.
But they also had the what us gonna do.
Oh, yeah, what us gonna do? So there you got that. And then beat up, it was what Harpo was told by Celie in The Color Purple. So the father, though, Floyd, is trying to tell his son, Roger, hey, if you keep neglecting this girl, she's going to find somebody to take your place.
But look, you keep neglecting that little old girl of yours and somebody going to take your place.
And then Floyd sings this blues song, and he's like, the words to the song are like, your wife is going to find another man.
Your wife, she's going to find another man.
What? What'd you think of that song?
He's neglecting her. I don't know, whatever. I was waiting for it to be over. But how is it neglect when he's just working to compensate for her overspending, basically, is what it seems like is happening. And then it's like, as a punishment for trying to do what's right, you will not have
I'm going to forget our anniversary and, yeah, you know.
Yeah, the only thing is the anniversary. The other things, I don't know. But we'll get to that because Ronald shows up.
It's inconsiderate, though, to cancel plans that without talking to the person. Like, that's inconsiderate, like, to unilaterally decide. But then maybe she unilaterally decided they were going on a vacation.
She unilaterally decided when she kept spending stuff they didn't have. That's right.
So, you know, so then Ronald shows up, though, at Judith's house in the next scene.
What are you doing here at my house?
Why was he there?
Talking about his wife can't come on Thursday.
My wife can't make the appointment on Thursday.
So you know, first of all, you showed up. We got a business arrangement. You showed up at my crib. That's the you ain't coming in.
He didn't like, it's my time, I paid, and then she's like, yeah, it is. What?
So since I bought the hour, can we have it here?
Good, because I figured since I already bought the hour, you and I can still spend it together.
So then she's like, what? And then so she lets him do it. And then he's like, I got you some salmon with lemon sauce and everything.
I got you some salmon.
Salmon?
With lemon sauce.
So she is vulnerable and upset with her husband. But to me, the thing to remember is that when you're unhappy with your partner because you're mad at them or whatever, you're in this vulnerable state. And it can be very easy to compare your partner's worst attributes against the potential side person's best attributes. And this is not a fair comparison. You are not comparing apples to apples and oranges to orange. You're comparing the worst thing about your partner to the best things about this other person. And this is why a lot of people, you know, talked about like the idea of, oh, is the grass greener on the other side and so on, you know. But anyway, and the fact that their names are Ronald and Roger, I hate the two names that are not similar, but, you know, with the RO beginnings, because man, I need a different name. But anyway, so Ronald is there and he's flirting and he's like, how is your marriage?
How's your marriage holding up?
We're doing good.
The second thing, don't be talking to anybody about your marriage. Like
she already did that, like when they were in the office, right? She was sharing the details of her relationship with the ex.
Giving
he's
him
like, oh, he's going to do this and we're going to go to Home Depot, whatever she said, right? But then, you know, he's still doing it.
And he's like, oh, your marriage is boring. And this, of course, is just like in the movie when we saw, you know, in the movie this happened.
It's like, I think I love my wife too, right? Because his life was boring and everything, and she came with some excitement. So, I don't know, that may have influenced it.
So he says, you know, you married a safe church-going accountant and whatever.
To a safe church-going accountant. Doesn't get much more boring than that now, does it?
So he's trying to spark in her like, you need excitement in your life and everything. You don't have any excitement. And he is literally pressing his front on her back, coming up behind her. Because
you have no excitement in your life.
Like, no, bro. And so she does, like, she's telling him, back off, leave me alone, you know. And then she's like, well, you know, and he says, well, I have a confession. And, you know, he makes a statement like, my wife don't matter because she ain't here.
I'm here for you and my wife ain't here, so she don't matter.
What? And let me confess that I divorced my wife a few years ago.
My wife and I got divorced a few years ago.
Ronald, then what are you doing here?
On, she's like, well, then what are you doing here?
Yeah, it's Lisa. Right? But before that, you know, he was talking about how good she looks, and she's already done when she's like, and you don't look so bad yourself. It's over at that point,
like,
right?
Come on, girl.
But then, you know, I watched this video recently by this guy on YouTube, and he talks about how evil triumphs, right? And some parts of that stood out because it's recent that I watched it, right? But when he talks about how, remember that time we were driving down Rodney, whatever, and they stole this liquor together.
Jay, we stole that liquor together. What are you talking about?
No, I did not. You stole that liquor.
So now they got this secret thing, this whole kinship that binds them forever, despite the fact that they're, you know, exes or whatever, right? But yeah, but at this point, I'm like, oh, his wife is Lisa. Now,
yeah, I mean, you already know. And then, of course, we've seen the movie, so we know how it turns out. But I don't, you know, but she's like, well, I'm married. She keeps telling, so just like in the movie, she's telling him, look, I'm married.
You miss me.
I am married.
He said, I don't give a damn about you being married because I'm rich.
What? I don't give a damn about you being married. I'm rich.
Now, let me tell you, I think this is how a lot of people feel, but insert whatever it is they think you want, and that's what they would say. It doesn't matter that you married because I'm fine. It doesn't matter that you married because I'm your boss. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but that's what the red pill folks, right? Like, I'm high value. I get whatever I want and do whatever I want because I act like I make a lot of money, even though you don't. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? I'm an alpha male.
So again, I think that you have to be the one to give a damn about whatever it is. You got to be the one to care about your kids. You got to be the one to care about your marriage. You got to be the one to care. You should be caring more than other people about your circumstances and the people who you say you love. So anyway, but just a reminder, they are literally in her house she shares with her husband, you know, but then he keeps coming on to her and he kisses her. And then, you know, she pushes him off or whatever and tells him to leave.
You have got to get out of here.
Wait a second, Jay, hold on.
leave now, get out of here. And he's gonna go back out the front door. But who's pulling up? Roger and his daddy
she got
and
another
her
secret.
mama.
That's Roger! You gotta go out the back door.
Say run out the back.
Yeah, so run out the bath. So
now you already cheating.
right. So you got I think people who manipulate the way that Ronald is doing understand that the more things that they get you to do with them secretively, the more
she
they
could have been
you.
like, no, go out the front door. Oh, he came over.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's out there. Your husband knows. And then maybe that's a way that, not necessarily, that Ronald probably will step back a little bit or not be as, brazen as he's been.
And what about bringing it up to your husband from the point that he came to your office?
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, guess who came to my office today? Remember that guy I used to date in college? Yeah, he came there talking about his wife. And, I told him that I would counsel them. But, I don't know. Did I make the right, what do you think about, the fact that you don't have conversations with your spouse is a little weird to me, but okay.
Yeah.
Because that would have left the door open. And here's the thing. You and your husband are a team, not you and this dude you used to, be sleeping with. Okay. So you're acting like you just do what you want to do and your husband is over here and you over there, No.
Yeah, so then Ronald comes in but Ronald, he leaves. He steals the weed and he leaves.
Leave!
Come on a minute.
No!
And then Roger, too many Roz again, he comes in and then she just basically like, we need to go out.
I was thinking that maybe you take me dancing tonight. We go to a theater, a candlelight table dinner, candle anniversary.
Well, because, he has no spontaneity. And then, but he has these bills. It's tax season, the busiest time of the year for him.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it was so urgent for her because, she was hot in the pants because she really wanted Ronald.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, this is the most pressing thing right now.
Huh. Judith has set up this romantic dinner for their anniversary. And then somebody comes through the door, she got candlelights and whatever. And it turns out that it's her mama and Roger's daddy.
Hey, Roger!
Mine eyes have seen the glory.
And she has paid for them to be out the house for their anniversary so that they could have some alone time. But the daddy apparently forgot his medicine, so they had to come back. And she's like, well, where is Roger? And, Roger still isn't home yet. And so the mama tells her, marriage is hard work and, do what you can to try to save your marriage, pray about it and so on. And so then we get comedy, right, with Floyd coming out and he is inhaling his weed through a nasal cannula attached to a bong. And then he begins to pray while he's still inhaling it, right?
I'm trying to quit, Jesus.
Help him, Lord.
He's like, take the taste out my mouth, Father.
Take the taste out my mouth, Father.
And, I just thought it was so funny because I've heard people, make that prayer before. And it just was hilarious because clearly he wasn't interested in stopping, but he's just, making this prayer. But anyway, Roger calls and he's at work again on their anniversary.
Yeah,
and,
after the parents leave.
Yeah. And so she's just like, well, just forget it.
At work? It is our anniversary. No, just forget it.
Then we get this crazy music. Come on. And then Judith calls Ronald and then goes to meet him.
Where should I meet you? All right, bye.
So the next scene we see is at Judith's office. And then Becky is like, oh, what's going on? We got all these flowers in here or whatever.
When a man is sending this many flowers, he's trying to get, or he already got.
And so Judith ultimately admits to Becky that she accidentally slept with Ronald.
It was an accident.
How the hell was it an accident? He just walked and fell on you?
She tells the story of what happened.
And his hands go...
Did you forget about your ring? Does Roger know?
No.
And how one thing led to another, blah, blah, blah. She like, it felt so good. It was like I was living again.
It felt so good. It felt like I was living again.
And then she's like, this is wrong. Becky like, yeah, this is wrong.
This has got to be wrong.
It is wrong.
And, Becky is actually not only the comedy, but she's also the voice of conscience, the voice of reason. And she's like, well, does Roger know? And she's like, no, Roger doesn't know. So the next thing we see, Roger shows up at work.
Hi, baby. Oh, wow.
Hey!
And he sees all these flowers that Ronald has sent. And so what does Judith do? She lies. She blames the flowers on Becky. Oh, look at these flowers Becky got or whatever.
Who died?
The flowers?
Yes.
Oh, the flowers came for Becky.
And he's like, well, I came to take you to Red Lobster. And he apologizes for everything.
I need to apologize for not paying closer attention to you and to our anniversary.
And ask for forgiveness. I haven't been paying attention to you and so on. So
I was wrong, and I'm very, very sorry. Will you please forgive me?
I'm trying to be a good man to you. And he apologizes. Let me tell you what this reminded me of. Okay, this is a little story of some people who we have seen do vlogging. And we've been watching them. They're a couple. They're, a cute young couple. And so clearly they were on the road to being married, right? Or engaged or something like that. Because, it's looking like it's getting serious. And there were points in various vlogs where especially one where it was clear, because they're traveling all kind of places and whatever, where it was clear that she was expecting a proposal. And then she didn't get the proposal. And so I was like, ooh, you could tell how her attitude just changed, because it was like a nice, a nice meal he set up and everything. They're dressed up. So it looks like something big is going to happen, right? But then nothing happens. And so then later on, there's we see a vlog where I guess there was some missing time. And the guy's like, where you been? Because, they're in a group of other people. Where you been? And so she was off with some, other girls or whatever. And she has you were the one who caught that expression on her face. She had this crazy expression on her face, right? And she was looking like, and she was ready to just like, she was scared and like she had been caught. Like she just looked like, she was in trouble. And then other girls started talking. So she didn't say anything right away. And then, so it was like, well, dang, what were y'all doing? So then we kind of had our little suspicions as to what was going on. And then we saw something later in another video that made us think, okay, this is what y'all were doing, but maybe a little bit more. So this brings me to, they got engaged. He finally asks, and then, she says yes and accepts the proposal. Now, let me tell you, I think dude was just slightly late. I think she did step out on him because she makes the comments like, I was talking so much trash about him, because the other people knew that they were getting engaged. And I was like, man. And, like literally she'd been holding out. Like you could tell she's been wanting it. She's been sending him things that are hinting at, like, obviously we want to get engaged. When are we, that kind of thing. And he went all out. I mean, beautiful ring. He designed it, like it was great, but it was like he had teased it a bunch of times leading up to that, right? Or at least felt like he teased it. And she was just finally like, it's not going to happen. Like she literally makes that statement, right? I think I've been saying it's not going to happen. And I'm thinking, you said it wasn't going to happen. And you just went and did what you did, how you felt. And it reminds me of this right here. And so, of course, she said, yes, of course they're getting engaged. But I suspect, because obviously we don't know these people. We don't know. But I'm like, man, I think she might have.
That's the problem of having your relationship out like that and vlogging your life.
Yes.
People just make up things in their mind.
Yeah. Like, I mean, obviously we don't know that, but it just seemed, So anyway, so that's what this reminded me of. So she's like, it felt so good and whatever. So, but now she has to start lying to cover up the tracks of what she did that was wrong. And, but she accepts this Ronald and Roger thing. She accepts Roger, her husband's apology. And who shows up but Ronald at the office talking about, baby, how you like the flowers I done brought you or whatever.
So, do you like the flowers?
So she starts, trying to run interference.
But why Roger got to be a complete fool?
I know. And then Roger knows him because he's famous, right? Yeah. And he's just like, oh, how did he put it? He said, he was like, he's basically saying he admires him or something. He likes him. He said,
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. And he's like, your wife is a big fan of me. Like, bro.
I am a huge fan, brother.
Yeah, so is your wife.
Why you got to do all of that? So then behind closed.
So then they happen to be alone again.
Yeah.
Like,
so how
what?
are they alone? But whatever. So they're alone, and then Ronald is trying to convince Judith to leave her husband and come be with him. You know, you need to leave him.
You need to leave him and come and be with me.
No,
And she's like, no, I love him.
I love him, and I am not leaving him.
And he's like, I love you though.
I love you. I love you, Jay.
And she's like, I don't want to hurt him. He's a good man.
He is a good man.
And he helped me through school. He did all of these things for me.
He is good with my mother, and he is good with his father.
And then he said, yeah, he's a good man. He's a good man, and he deserves a good woman.
That means that he deserves a good woman.
But you're a great woman.
You are a great woman.
I'm a great man, so.
That means you deserve a great man. A great man like me.
You know. And
Yeah,
I
and
was
then it's
just
the
like,
whole the money thing, right? A great
won't
man
have to
wouldn't
work.
have you working, right? So
I make more in a year than he can make in a lifetime. You know, and then he pulls out some keys like he's trying to give her a brand new car.
I can't accept that.
Take the keys, Jay.
I cannot
Take the keys,
accept
Jay.
that, Ronald.
Dang, that's
Has
nice.
he ever gave you this? You know, and so she is left there at the end.
You know you want to be with me.
Yeah, but the whole dagger is Roger is beneath you.
Roger is beneath you.
Ooh, that's what everybody want to hear. That somebody is beneath you, huh?
You are better than that.
Because it's fueling the ego, right? It's
Yeah.
fueling the ego. He's made her feel good and always at this point, and she only feels conflicted about basically twisting that knife in her husband Roger's back. So this is where we will conclude the first portion of our coverage of The Marriage Counselor. We'll call this part 1, and we're going to get to part 2. But so far, like, what do you think about it? Because this is definitely different than the movie, because we had this conversation about the movie, right? Where the question is whether or not it was consensual. What happened on that plane between Judith and what was the character's name? Harley and Judith on his private jet. And a lot of people felt like it wasn't consensual. We concluded that it was a violation, right? We concluded that in our discussion. And that is very different than the way it was portrayed in the play, where she basically walked right into it almost as a form of retaliation for being upset with her husband.
Yeah.
And that matters to me. That matters in how I'm going to interpret the actions. I have way less sympathy for this version of Judith than I do for the one in the movie. Up to this point, you know what I'm saying? Because but you could have this could be resolved. You didn't have to pick up the phone and call this
That
dude.
goes to the crux of if it is a punishment or not,
or a consequence, right?
Yeah, if the person willingly was involved in the thing or not, or coerced or forced to do something they didn't want to do. But it's kind of also that this guy Roger or Bryce, his wife did what she did because of,
feelings
his actions.
of neglect or whatever. Yeah.
And we got a lot of comments on that too. So they both I think it's kind of similar of, what's going on. But all of the other couples and stuff is where it kind of
But back to the whole idea of consent though. So if we're saying in the movie that Judith did not consent, if that was a violation, what happened initially between the two of them, then I feel like the way the movie turns out is like a punishment. And that's just more kind of evidence of that being a punishment as opposed to a consequence. In this, now I don't know how it ends yet, so please don't ruin it.
What makes it a consequence versus a punishment?
Okay, because we're trying to say, to me, it can't be a punishment if you didn't willingly go into, like, why would I get punished for something that I didn't willingly do if we're saying he violated her?
Yeah, it's not a punishment, right? It would be the thing.
Well, I don't interpret it as a punishment, but the way the film was laid out was as if. See, this is where you and I disagree on it. Which is why I don't like the end of the movie. Because if we got a question if that was a violation, then what happens to her in the end? Idea of it even being a cautionary tale.
We're questioning it because we should know, right? The situation by itself is about consent.
Mm-hmm.
right? So it don't make the people who that happened to a punishment for them being in a situation. We wouldn't say that. We would say something wrong happened to them.
Yes.
Right. So when I watch it in the movie, that's what I see. Because it's always, a lot of times it's questioned whether or not it was consensual, and then should you have been there? And then the conclusion isn't that it's a punishment.
Of the whole movie is that if you're busy thinking the grass is greener on the other side, and your punishment, if you do these things, you could have this as a punishment.
No, she was enticed.
Right.
That's different than thinking always just off out of nowhere thinking that the grass is greener on the other side.
So what got her to the situation to even be on that plane in that way was that she worked with him.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not on her.
I agree that it is not on her. I guess I'm just trying to make this case for the idea that the question of consent being a question in the movie versus it being she just willingly did. She called that man. She sought him out.
Yeah, but that happens in real life. And we always say about the victims, it's not your fault that this happened to you because that shouldn't have happened. Right? I call some cats.
The movie shouldn't be a cautionary tale. It's not a cautionary tale then, right?
Okay, I guess it is.
You know, but it's intended to be
cautionary,
which is why.
But the cautionary doesn't mean that you're being punished. You need to be, if I go outside at 3:00 at night and walk through gang territory, you know, talking to, well, what's up?
But the unspoken thing about all of the stuff, when you're doing something that, quote, you had no business doing, or, quote, you should have known better to do, quote, you shouldn't have had that
but the
dress
movie don't
on,
say
quote,
you shouldn't have better. You know what I'm saying? I don't think it is.
All right. So to me, that's the thing. But the fact of it being potentially non-consensual, you know, clearly in both the play and the film, they were enticed. But I think it's a big deal if the sex that occurs, the result of the initial sex in the film is not consensual. That matters to me. Versus here in the play, the play would be thus far if everything played out exactly like the movie at the end. So please don't ruin it because I don't know. But it would just be like a better case for that, right?
Better case for it being a punishment, right?
Yeah. So it would be unjust in the film to throw that question of.
Yeah, but they gave clear character flaws that. She basically wasn't respecting her husband. She was spending up the money and all this, and she should have known better because she's a marriage counselor. She even said it to her mama and all this other stuff, right? Yeah. So, but I still wouldn't see it as a punishment. But.
Well, yeah. So this is going to be something that we just we have our own ways of interpreting, and that's fine because I think everybody sees it how they see it, and again, I'm not saying a person is right or wrong for how they see it. It's just that to me, that's how I see it. And I can't unsee it that way. At least not at this point. I don't have enough evidence in any other way or haven't heard a convincing enough argument for me to change my mind about that. So yeah, but I mean, as far as.
Was it a punishment in Players Club? Ebony?
There are people who even commented like so.
Yeah, but I'm talking about you. We talking about
no.
Oh.
See, to me, in my mind, it's never a punishment. Like
except in Temptation, the movie.
In Temptation, what I'm saying is it wasn't. I don't think that what we're intended to interpret it that way. That's the whole point.
Okay, so was it that in Players Club?
Were we intended? I think on some level we were intended to interpret it like she deserved what she got, even though it wasn't all the way unfair. There are plenty of people who commented on the Players Club videos that we've done that said,
"Yeah, but the thing
Ebony
is
was
about,
this." They told Ebony. So the idea
but
that
the thing
if
is
you've
that
been,
Cheri believes that Temptation Film is coming to this conclusion, and I'm asking, does Cheri feel that Players Club came to that conclusion?
I think that is the unspoken sentiment of both of those films not the overarching one, but it's just the unspoken sentiment. And at the end, because you say, well, nobody should ever have a violation happen to them. Nobody should ever have these things. But if you hadn't addressed like that, but if they tried to tell you, I can't even tell, even in the temptation pit, a number of people said, well, people tried to tell her. So in other words,
when I watch a movie, I don't listen to people's comments and say, I think the film is saying this because commenters have said this. I think that maybe
was
some
my
people
interpretation before the comment, because clearly it was, I can't see comments on a video before we put the video out, right?
Exactly. But that's why I don't bring them up when I'm talking about how I interpreted it.
That was how I interpreted it, but my evidence that other people felt and agreed with the sentiment.
Yes, and I know people who say that Nino Brown is a heroic figure, somebody who should be admired, but I don't interpret it that way. I just say people think that.
Okay, so
I don't bring that up as evidence that the film is saying that.
So again, I think that things are being conflated here that are not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I look at it, I have my interpretation. I have what I also think that the film was trying to say. And as a third thing, there's evidence in the comments, in the way other people who discuss it interpret it, as to how other people saw it. Now, how other people see it has nothing to do with what I think. But what I think of the filmmaker's effort in terms of what I think they were trying to have people believe and think, it's the same way as in a film where they play sad music at a certain part. Oh, clearly the filmmaker is trying to make us feel sad. Or, in this moment. So that's what I'm saying about that. Now, the idea of my personal beliefs about a scenario like this.
When you're saying about the filmmaker's intent,
yes,
you're saying because there's comments.
No, I'm saying that I felt that because when I watched it, that's what I thought.
No, you brought up the filmmaker's intent just now.
Yes.
What does that have to do with people's comments?
That's a third and separate thing.
Yeah, why?
Because it's a measure of whether that worked.
Whether what worked?
Whatever their attempted interpretation was. So, like, if
you talking about whether it's the filmmaker's intended interpretation?
The filmmakers.
So, if I say that the Hughes brothers wanted us to glorify Old Dog, is evidenced by the sheer number of people who idolize Old Dog. I'm saying it.
Okay.
People who idolize Old Dog in the comments. So I can look at that and say that was probably an intention of the filmmaker.
No, I don't think so. I think what I think is the intention is based on what I believe upon my just interpretation without feedback from other people.
Right, exactly.
So then I wouldn't turn around and use the logic that somebody's feelings about it are evidence of what the filmmaker thought.
So I wouldn't bring up and then there were comments that said this.
No. Well, okay, I see what you're saying. All right.
Yeah.
All right. But the hill I'm gonna die on for this is that I do believe it was intended because it also think in the context of this being a churchy kind of a thing, cautionary tales, even if we look at just the history of as people tell different tales, right, that we've known historically, like, the tales of like Little Red Riding Hood, other stories that are fictional that are intended to convey a certain message to the reader or the viewer. I think that is a message. The message is, if you're not doing stuff you had no business doing, then you wouldn't have been in this in the first place, which is what puts it in the punishment type of realm for me, as opposed to a mere consequence, because the punishment has a value judgment on it.
But saying if you hadn't done this is a value judgment of the intended purpose.
Yeah.
But if just laying it out and saying this happened, this happened, this happened, and it is interpreted as if you hadn't, that's the person who is interpreting it.
Okay.
Not the person who laid out the things.
Yeah, right.
The events.
I can accept that.
Yeah, because that's what I think. Like most these things that we say have some morals or something, it's about consequences and not necessarily that you're being punished, unless they just bring in and be like, the devil is doing this to you as a punishment, right? Because that's kind of like Tales from the Hood, right? That was kind of what that was telling in a couple of the stories.
But what about all of the subtext that comes to the table when we understand that this is a predominantly Christian audience, that these are plays that are geared for Christian people, that the religion is weaved in throughout the whole thing.
Every character would be being punished for their actions that can be seen as not in line with that religion. Even the husband.
I think the argument could be made that that's true.
Well, that's what I'm making, if that's the case, right?
Yeah.
That everybody's being punished.
I mean, that's a very simple way of looking at life. That's not the way I look at life, but that's a simple way of looking at life and conveying simple concepts in that way. You do a bad thing, bad things happen to you.
Yeah.
Right? That is the basic idea, right? That I think is often oversimplified and presented in a lot of stories that we see. So yeah. So with this first half,
it ain't have as much singing as I thought, but I don't know about the second half.
Well, maybe the singing of where it's not like a full song, but like how they did the Amen corner, like that was kind of cute, and it didn't have to be
I'm talking about
long and drawn
songs.
out. No, I know what you mean, but it was still like a melody, and you can feel a little churchy without having a 2 or 3 minute break in there. But I'm sure that there probably is a practical reason why the songs, because somebody's in the back changing their wardrobe, somebody is and it's a way to seem continuous without having an intermission
and changing the sets and stuff. But I must have just been very unlucky when I was scrubbing this thing.
You just stopped at all the songs.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna regret this.
Yeah. So, what do you think though? So far, like the way everything got set up, do you feel like the movie by comparison?
What do you mean by comparison?
Like, do you think which is better? I know you're always going to say the movie because of the singing,
course.
but okay, aside from that.
No, just on the story itself, the movie, because in the plays, they're trying to throw in big, long comedy parts, and you know how I don't like this big outward acting and stuff, But the movie, you got time to set all the lighting, the cameras, and all this stuff. It's always going to be better, and the actors are sometimes... You had Journey Smollett in the movie. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on.
And Lance Gross, yeah.
Yeah, but whatever. Journey Smollett is amazing actress.
Yeah, and was a child actor. And by the way, we have covered Eve's Bayou, which you watch her acting amazingly in that film as a child.
I don't know if I brought it up, and when we talked about the film, I wanted to bring up her acting.
And I think we may have gotten sidetracked at various parts, but yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that was great. We covered
better,
it.
I think. But the movie's better. But I think how the woman works with Judith in this one, Lisa works with Judith, and it's not as obvious as old girl sneaking around in the movie and stuff, putting on the hoodie, look like she's hiding from somebody, and then this man pops up. You know working with, it was much more subtle.
Working with Bryce also created I had made the comment that, Bryce was like, oh yeah, I'm going to take you to work and pick you up and all of this, but he never mentions that to Judith either.
And he tried to kiss her.
Yeah, and he tries to kiss her later. So it takes away, I think, that dynamic, unless, look, in the next half, is he really going to try to kiss her and not even really know her like that? I don't know.
Somebody brought up, maybe it'll be the white girl. So somebody brought up that, he's a pharmacist and she's probably a customer, and he would have known the medication she was on and her condition. So would he have tried to pursue that like that? But it could have been a, hey, I'm in a moment sort of a thing, right?
Wait a minute, who? You mean
Bryce?
I know Bryce was a pharmacist, but which one as the customer? You're
Brandy's
talking about
character,
Brandy,
who had HIV, and she had to reveal it to him.
Was she a customer or was she a worker?
I don't know if she was a customer, but I think she went in.
She worked because he was going to pick her up and take her home.
No, that was later on, but it was at the time where she put the hoodie on, and the time before that. Was she doing that for the interview?
No, that was
when
she
picking up her medication? Time in the hoodie? I don't know. I have to go back and watch.
I think she was leaving work for the day. And
but I wasn't under the impression that she was a customer, because I thought about it. I just didn't really give him much
It didn't
time.
occur to me because I always looked at her as an employee. So, you know, and then like if you got something like that going, I don't know, are you getting your medications at your work? You know, so I don't know, but that's a good point if that's how it was set up. But I always thought she was the employee the whole time. But somebody will let us know in the comments, you know, whether that's true or not. So yeah, so I can't wait to see the conclusion. And if you all run this video up, you'll get the conclusion faster than usual.
Yep. So,
but if y'all don't watch this video, I don't know. Maybe the conclusion only goes to Patreon. You know, it's just going to depend on that because this is YouTube.
So if you made it this far, type money ain't everything in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. And also be sure to visit axiom.app where you'll find all of our recent videos in one place so that you can get links to them back on YouTube because y'all know we got more than one channel, a lot more.